Okay. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be coming in from. My name is Ted Samaras. I am a Google Innovator, VIA 20, which is the first virtual group, as well as a Google Trainer, leader of the GEG or co-leader of the GEG in New Jersey, and also part of Team Benoit out of the U.S. Taiwan group. Hey, Willen, what's going on? How's Brazil? I hope everything's good down there. Thanks for joining today. Um, this is a great. If you haven't done the Innovator Spark Camp before, or you thought about maybe participating and weren't sure, the 20 minutes goes by really fast. It's definitely something worth thinking about doing in terms of like chipping in and giving back to the community. So I really love the fact that Andy keeps accepting my applications for being able to present today. All right. You're here though to listen about the DART mission that NASA did. I was fortunate enough to be selected from NASA Social to be able to do some social media coverage for them about the DART mission. And what the DART mission is, right? It is the double asteroid redirection test, and it took place on December. Sorry, I've got Christmas on the brain. September 26th, 2022, at 7:14 p.m. Eastern time here in the U.S. was the time of the impact. Basically, what they were doing was they had launched a small spacecraft in November of 2021, and were testing the theory about whether or not they could actually redirect an asteroid if it was coming toward Earth. Now, the asteroid that they selected had no way of getting here. It was never a threat, so this wasn't like global security in terms of this particular asteroid, but it did go through like their group of planetary defense. To be able to see if they can do this. So basically, they were testing with kinetic energy for the STEM people out there, in case you want to talk about it with your students, to be able to push this asteroid off. All right. So what I'm going to do is, I know you've probably seen enough of my face and the mustache I'm growing for Movember this month. So what I'll do is I will share a quick presentation with you as I kind of talk you through it here. So, so you'll notice here that this is the spacecraft, and when we went down there, we actually went down to the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, which is located in Laurel, Maryland, and the team down there is absolutely great. Um, I was lucky enough, like I said, to be selected to take part of this on that day with some other members that came in from around the country, and people just think about NASA, they think about Florida, and they think about maybe California or Houston, right? Because that's where the main controls are for launches. But there's a lot of work that gets done, not only here by NASA here in the states, but also like the European Space Agency and other space agencies around the world. And so to have an opportunity to only be like 3 hours away, Lower Maryland is nestled halfway kind of between Baltimore and Washington, D.C., for those of you who are curious about the geography of it. It was great too because my students got to realize that there are more opportunities for them outside of having to move to Florida and only be a rocket scientist. But anyway, the Hopkins group was able to help develop this, and we actually got to meet the person who was the actual builder, or the people who are the builders of this spacecraft. And we got to walk through like a hologram of the spacecraft, which was amazing because you got to go through each layer of it. And they knew from the beginning that this spacecraft, right, was going to end in a crash, right, if all the math was correct. So what they did was when they launched this, they basically had like a binary asteroid area that they were looking at, and so basically they kind of revolve around each other. If you could think about though, like how our moon revolves around the Earth, it's kind of the same thing. The big one is Didymos, right? And then the moonlet for Didymos, which is actually what they were trying to hit, this asteroid, was Dimorphos. And so even what they want to do was they want to see if they could deflect Dimorphos enough to change its orbit. And so when they did this, they were projecting that they would hopefully be able to change the orbit and make it 13 minutes quicker. All right. Um, in this presentation, which I'll share with you not only on my website, but I can actually share with you guys as well. This is actually the full coverage of the impact. So if you actually didn't have a chance to see it live and you'd like to, I kind of put the minute markers here about when it really starts to get intense right before impact. All right. And then basically, this is what we were talking about in terms of altering the impact. So DART was going to come in and, like I said, just kind of crash into Dimorphos and make the new orbit here in the orange a little bit closer than the original orbit. You'll notice here something called Licia Cube. Licia Cube was the camera that was built by the Italian Space Agency, and it actually popped out of DART 2 weeks before the impact. So this way it could kind of trail it and take all the great pictures that it took. So when we were down there, basically the engineers and the rocket scientists and everybody else was telling us they could not really even see Dimorphos because this is like 11 it was like millions of miles away. So and Dimorphos was never in a position where they could actually see it. They could see Didymos. So as they made the approach to this, they had to go to Didymos first. And basically, this here was like 45 minutes or so before impact. And this is the first time they actually saw or could confirm visually that Dimorphos was actually there. They couldn't tell if Dimorphos was actually like a clump of little rocks or whether it was like shaped like a donut, which was kind of like their funniest and worst fear because of the fact that they were afraid that the craft might go through it. But as it turns out, as you can see as we got closer, this is what Dimorphos looked like. Some people thought it was like an avocado. Some people thought it was like, an egg with a rash. There were different takes on it. But as they made the approach closer and closer to Dimorphos, this is what you started to see. And this is like the last image that was taken right before impact that was sent back. So this you'll notice on like different backgrounds. I'm sure it's been like on my screensaver for a while. And then this is the very last image that started to transmit. And normally when you see an image like this and you're with NASA or the Hopkins lab, this is a bad sign because it means your spacecraft has crashed or your camera has terminated, right? One or the other. But this is actually an image that they were looking for because it meant that the spacecraft that they wanted to make impact actually made impact. So that's where there was a ton of excitement. And like I said, if you watch the at least that clip of the YouTube video, it is amazing to see people put their life's work into this and really be excited about what it is and what the ramifications are for this too, knowing that now we can use this model to replicate it. As it turns out, they were expecting the orbit to move 13 minutes closer. It actually moved 32 minutes closer. It took them a couple of months to kind of find out that information. But now that they have that, now that they have actually tangible data about the impact, now they can make their adjustments in terms of speed and mass and everything else. A few other notes I just want to make here for you with the presentation. There is a thing on NASA's website. If you go to the DART mission, if you have students who want to become, or yourself, if you want to become a planetary defender, you can do that. There's a little quiz that kind of takes you through, and they can get a badge, or you can have a badge. So I'm proud that I'm a planetary defender now. And you can see here, the asteroid, again, was like 6.8 million miles away or 11 million kilometers. So that's why they did, like I said, they didn't have the visual on this, especially because of the the angle that they had it, right? Again, we talked about the names, okay? And they took some pictures. You may see some other images from ground-based telescopes after, but realistically, a lot of the close-up pictures, or all the close-up pictures, came from this Italian camera, this Licia Cube here. Um, and then if you actually go to like the Google search, or if you go to the Google homepage and you type in Dart mission, I'm not going to tell you what happens, but you can see it's one of those little Easter eggs that the guys at Google like to provide. So I'll let you do that. One of the big takeaways from all this, before I just mention a couple of the other missions, is the fact that when you think of NASA, right? You think about places like um, you think of like places like Washington D.C., where the headquarters are. Like I said, Florida, where they just had the Artemis launch there. But like there are like rocket laboratories in Alabama. There are rockets that take off the coast of Virginia in Wallops. At the Wallops facility, there's the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab in Maryland, and so like again, like students get hung up on the fact that like, oh, if I'm ever going to work for NASA, I either have to be an astronaut, I have to be able to build the rocket, and I have to move to Florida. And when they start realizing there's other possibilities, like letting somebody like me in for that day, they can start seeing, oh, maybe social media, maybe Google, maybe other things that I do in my life. There was a wide range of people who were actually represented NASA Social that day, including some great people I met who are like artists. There were teachers. Musicians, et cetera, et cetera. So they were definitely looking to kind of expand their reach. All right. Uh, and again, you can see here too, and also at the facility, the security people were great. I was one of the first people there. I tend to be early, and they were like, the first question was, "Are you with NASA or are you with Johns Hopkins?" And that was a question I never thought I'd ever hear in my life, and I really didn't know how to answer. But this is the group here, and you can see here. So we came from all walks of life, and it was a very diverse group. So I wanted to show you that as well. Real quick, I just want to see here if there's anything in the chat before I, okay, go on with the presentation. And I know we have a tight time, so we'll talk about other ways that we could talk about this too. But again, the Dart mission, it was fantastic. I highly recommend not only you looking at those clips, but also thinking about NASA as well and following all the great projects they work on. There are two upcoming missions that the next couple of missions that Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab is working on in partnership with NASA and also the Jet Propulsion Laboratories out in California that I want to make mention of and put on your radar. The first one is the Europa Clipper. This will be launching in October of 2024, and they are going to be sending the spacecraft out to one of Saturn's moons, Europa, which they believe is very icy, but may contain certain elements that could have some kind of the possibility or history of having life there. So what they want to do is they want to take a lot of type of reconnaissance type of images and that type of thing. So this will be the closest they get to Europa ever in at least in known history. And then and again, this group has worked on other projects as well. Just to kind of give you some background on. So aside from the DART mission, they've also worked on things like the New Horizons, which was which took the first images of Pluto. They worked on the Parker Solar Probe. Which which is the one that went out to it's the closest one ever to the sun. And so and I'm very excited about the Europa one coming up. To be honest, I'm even more excited about the Dragonfly one. Dragonfly, basically, they're going to be launching it in early 2027, and it will be landing on Saturn's moon Titan in 2034. So if your calendar is not already booked, even though for some of you guys that I see on the call, you're probably already booked for things in 2034, you may want to kind of make note about when that actually happens. Maybe a year, or you never know. But what they're doing is that they're actually sending like a mega like hovercraft out to Titan. And so basically, if you can picture like the Mars rovers, just they have like 8 like propeller blades that like keep it up. What it's going to do is it's going to land there and it's going to be completely autonomous because they're not able to send signals out to it in real time because it would be like a 7-hour delay just to be able to get the information out to it. And it will be hopping from like every so often, like every like every Titan day, which would be similar to like, let's say 30 Earth days, give or take. It will hop from place to place on Titan if they think that the surface of Titan, if it turns out to be what they think it is. And what's kind of cool about it is that it rains methane based on their projections and that type of thing. So they definitely think that there's the building blocks of life there. So like I said, if you are looking forward to something or need something to keep you going, launch date for that is 2027 with a landing date of 2034. Again, I know we only have a couple of minutes left. These sessions go by so quickly. But if you want more information on this or anything else that I am working on, here's my Twitter handle for what it's worth. If it's around tomorrow, that will still be my Twitter handle. But it's at Our Tech Coach. My website here has some more resources, including the videos for this, at ourtechcoach.com. And also, I started a podcast called Ski Cap Hoodie and Shorts, and devoted episode 10, which is my day with NASA, that you can certainly listen to this. It's one of the longer ones I did, so it's about like 35 minutes. But it definitely talks about a lot of the great people that I met down there that unfortunately, like I wasn't able to kind of roll into this quick presentation. But feel free to listen to that podcast for that particular episode or any of the other stuff that I happen to be talking about on any particular day. The biggest takeaway from this is that space is for everybody. Again, if I do nothing else, I hope that I kind of helped you get excited or gave you a way to get your students excited about space. Because again, it's not just for rocket scientists, it's not just for engineers, but really down from, like I said, from the security guards I met, to the people who were giving us a tour, the communications people who are putting together all the packets and the websites and everything else. There's so many jobs at places like this that if you really want to be affiliated with a place like NASA or a place like Hopkins, you can find your way there. And so yeah, so. With that, I'm just going to stop sharing the screen here, and I'm just going to hop back in here and take a look. Let's see. There's a fair chance Abbott will be at the conference when the Dragonfly land. Will be at a conference when Dragonfly lands. Yeah, it's funny. Like I kind of had like certain people in mind about who may be busier than others. Knowing some of the people on the call. And Abbott probably has himself scheduled all the way through. He's probably ready. He's probably going to be like King Charles X's coronation. So he'll probably got himself all kind of checked off there too. But yeah, definitely. If anybody, like I said, has more questions about this, because I know it was a quick session, I could go on and on about this, and my mind is still blown. That I actually had an opportunity to have a day like this. To be honest, for those of you who are familiar with the Maryland area, on my way back up to New Jersey, I actually had to stop at Fort McHenry in the morning on the way back, just so that this way I could kind of ground myself, because I felt like I was 300 years in the future. So I had to go 200 years back and see the American flag, fly over Fort McHenry, just so I could kind of calibrate myself and realize it was 2022 again. So, but yeah, with that, I see that I see that I'm sorry to bring up Fort McHenry, Andy, as you're popping in. I know that's that didn't work out well for you, but it is what it is.
That's okay. And really fascinating to hear as well about the connections you got there. That's really great to hear.
Yeah, and I know like I've got like 30 seconds left, or whatever, but like realistically though, like to be able to get to a place like this. Like, I can't thank the people at like Google enough. I can't thank you guys enough with the training program and the innovator program, because it not only let me step out of my shell, but it also allowed me some of these experiences that now have branched out into other things. I definitely think that was something that helped me have an opportunity like this. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
No problems. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for presenting. We are right at time, so I've dropped the link in the chat for anyone